Okay, so our next speaker is actually a very good friend of mine, probably one of the, I would say, best analytical minds I've ever met. And if you ever thought about trends and what's going to happen in the future, especially in ecosystems like Madrid and Spain at large, and even Latin America, he's the guy to go and he's the guy to listen to. So he has an extensive trajectory from Foreign Affairs Office in his home city to ICT department in cities like Düsseldorf in Germany, all the way to working with IBM. And his previous job was actually in Invested Spain, helping bring foreign funds into the country. Now he runs his own firm called SLFDI. He's a partner and director, a very good friend, and talking about the trends of the future that are going to happen in the Madrid ecosystem. Please welcome my friend Andrés García.
Yeah, so thank you, Alex, for the kind introduction. So as he's already said, I'm Andrés García. I co-lead a boutique consulting company focused on foreign investment. This means that we help cities, regions, or countries to attract companies or investors to their territories, and we also help multinationals relocate to the areas where we are active. So after this morning, where we have seen some micro perspectives of companies that have been doing business here, they have asked me to share our thoughts on Madrid and how we see Madrid compared to other ecosystems. The timing is quite interesting. As you all know, operating costs in the US, they are rising quite a lot. Brexit and other territorial disputes are generating changes in the flows of talent and in the flows of people and capital. So there is a legit question of if other cities can get up the game and compete against or challenge the status quo of international hubs. So the question there is, okay, what ingredients or what attributes have these hubs concentrated to be able to compete at that level? So there's quite a lot of consensus that these are the areas or these are the attributes most of the cities are focusing now. So they focus on talent, focus on capital markets and the market itself. They focus on infrastructures and communication. They focus on policy, especially regarding innovation. And they focus a little bit on the critical mass, no? How well built those ecosystems are. So the idea is to go a little bit fast through some of these aspects in Madrid. First thought here is that we need to take into account that Spain is a multi-hub country, and this has some implications on how the different cities compete or cooperate between them. Madrid needs to find a way to cooperate with the rest of the hubs, and Madrid needs to lift the tide for all of the cities, not just in Spain, but probably in the whole peninsula here. So take this into account whenever you take a look at numbers in Spain, because Madrid normally represents around 1/3 of everything. So we boost currently around 1,200 startups here, growing nicely, around 20% growth in the number of startups last year. So this makes Madrid the 5th largest hub country in Europe. We normally focus a lot on talent because talent is currently the most scarce resource, even more than capital. So those cities or those regions able to attract, to nurture, and to retain talent will be the real leaders in the future, and that's something Laura said in the first talk this morning. So talent is the real competition. People in Madrid forget that this is the 3rd largest metropolitan area in terms of population in Europe, only behind Paris and London. We are already the go-to hub for Latin American entrepreneurs that are coming to Europe, but we lack the brand and we lack the positioning in terms of attracting European and probably American investors. We are not the place to go yet for them. Madrid has never lacked, Madrid nor Spain have never lacked technical talent. It's hard to find comparable measures here, but the ones, for example, from Stack Overflow, already position Madrid among the top 10 in Europe. The thing here is that most of the startups that have been growing nicely or the scale-ups that have been growing nicely in Spain in recent years, what they find still trouble is in finding some senior talent in business development, marketing, sales. And most of our big startups, they are going still to the UK or the US, other mature markets, to look for these profiles. So there's something to be done there. Our business schools, universities, technology training centers, they are trying to bring that gap, but we are still not there. The other asset we get asked a lot about is capital. So we have seen a boost in capital availability in the last, let's say, 3 years. So Spanish venture capital firms, they have raised around 1 billion since 2016, plus Fondico, plus other public instruments. So there is plenty of capital, so to say, available. Madrid all combined, startups from Madrid have already raised around 1.5 billion since 2013, around 1/3 of the market in Spain. So both Madrid and Barcelona. Barcelona is still a bit ahead of Madrid there in capital raise so far. But the general rule is 1/3 of the capital is coming to Madrid. We saw this before also. Part of the responsibility for this capital flowing into Spain and Madrid comes from foreign investors. So foreign VCs, they have led already 20%, around 20% of the rounds in Madrid and Spain have been led by foreign investors, but 70% of the capital of those rounds have come from foreign investors. And this makes quite a lot of sense. So normally foreign investors only come for the bigger rounds, so Series A on forward. The most interesting part here is why these funds are coming. So normally it has to do with valuations, and it has been mentioned just now. So valuations in Spain are still competitive. They can tap talent at a fraction of the cost it would take them to tap that talent in the US or in London at the moment. Competition here is still low compared to other more mature economies, and the expectations for exits are still high. So we are still not there, but the expectations are high. So all in all, and what this makes is once a foreign fund has already invested here in Spain in a company, they need to come quarterly to the meetings. They get to know other actors of the ecosystem. They get to know other entrepreneurs. So once they've invested once, the flywheel starts rolling, and the momentum keeps building. We are seeing that also in terms of exits. So we are already over the billion mark a year in exit this last year. So the more capital companies raise, the more mature the market is, the more this promise needs to fulfill the expectations. So Spanish corporates are still not strong buyers of innovation here. So we still need to demonstrate that all this money that's coming into the market, all that billion that new funds have a level to invest, we need to demonstrate that there is going to be a market, an exit market for that. No? Another area where Spain is not, or Madrid is not still dominant is in our ability to generate the scale-ups. So if we take a look at the biggest companies around Europe, so there are over 70 unicorns now in Europe. Only one has come out of Madrid, only two out of Spain, and one of them, let go, one can discuss if it's American or Spanish. So big issue here yet. We are having some scale-ups and some startups that look nice, but our situation now is this one. And Europe is way behind China, and Europe is way behind the US in the number of companies. So we could discuss about if our model is more rational than the American one or not, but this is a real fact. No? We have only been able to produce one unicorn from Madrid in the past. And this is a counterintuitive thought. So part of the reason we are not able to build huge scale-ups is that because of our market is perhaps too big in the sense that it's big enough to demonstrate or to test the market, but it's not big enough to generate a scale for a global ecosystem. So this, especially before the crisis, this has prevented plenty of Spanish companies to go outside. So we did have a track, an easy, so to say, track to Latin America. We did have the knowledge, we did have the connections, we did have the infrastructures, but we didn't test it. And now if you take a look at Latin American startups, in Brazil, for example, they are way bigger than that they are already here. So we missed that opportunity. And we don't have the brand, and we don't have the recognition in Asia or in Europe so far to make a big impact. So this is something we need to think about. So market here is big, but it's not big enough at an international scale. No? The same happens with cost. So when one takes a look at numbers, and we see Spain in the middle, no? We see Spain being competitive in terms of salaries or in terms of operating costs. From the micro perspective, this is interesting. I can build a company way more efficient in capital here, but this has a couple of negative points. The first one is that from the outside, if you don't know the ecosystem, and if you haven't never worked with startups here before, it's very hard to identify or it's very hard to recognize that the talent here, the level of quality of the talent here is really high. So it's a very hard sell that when you say you are offering the same value for half the price, that's something the market is very reluctant to buy. So that's one point. And the other point is that having those low salaries, in spite of our high standards of living, it's a problem when bringing top talent from the outside here. So, and as we said before, in business environment, in marketing, sales, we do need people with experience scaling companies that we haven't have here yet. This is an area where we have strong discussions, both with the government and with the public sector, with the private sector, sorry. So there are plenty of people out there that say that the best thing the government can do is just take a step aside and don't intervene. But that's not normally how ecosystems work. And the chart is just an example. So if you take a look at the patents in the US, which is supposed to be a very pro-private country, 30% of the patents today in the US are based on public funding. So we do need the public sector to understand what their role needs to be. We do need the government to come back to the ground and see how they can help put our regulation to the top level. So Spain is a country where it's still hard to do business. It's hard to open a company. It's harder to close a company. It's hard to bring people outside the European Union. If you don't speak Spanish, it's hard to open a bank account. You cannot bring talent from the outside because you cannot offer stock options. So there are plenty of small things that they should be quite easy to fix if we had them on the pipeline. So what we need to do is we need to ask, because we do have public infrastructure, we do have Fondico, we have Anisa, we have plenty of guys out there trying to help, but we need them to understand really what the digital ecosystem now is demanding. So we need them to put them up to date, and we need them to understand how they should do their things. And it's not about innovating here. There are plenty of countries we have demonstrated or have shown how they should be doing these things, right? Yeah, this brings me to my final thought. So there are plenty of challenges for this Madrid ecosystem, the Spanish ecosystem here. If I had to pick 3 of those, I would focus on building a proper value proposition. Madrid hasn't found yet a proper value proposition that is unique and it's easy to understand from the outside. And this goes way beyond marketing efforts. This is about building that value proposition. I would focus on that government part. So we do need to align all the instruments we have with the real needs of real and future needs of the ecosystem. And I would also put my focus on stepping up the research and development game. So we do have talent, we do have infrastructures, but we are not putting together universities and research with the private sector and innovators. So those 3 areas should be taken a look closely. Because this is something most cities are recognizing. So the competition now, especially for talent, is huge. So as Laura was saying before, the opportunity is really now. So now the market is open, and we do need to take advantage of this opportunity as soon as possible. So that's it.
Thank you very much, sir.